Infinite number of outcomes.
Now, back to Willard and Dibs on 95.7 The Game.
I mean, let's be honest. I dressed up as the man for Halloween, and now you're asking me to criticize him. Unlikely, though there are an infinite number of outcomes.
Infinite number of outcomes.
All right, so we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Gabe Kapler says he's going to stay inside his office with the door all locked to avoid temptation. Tonight, against the Atlanta Braves.
Cool.
He's been suspended.
Cool.
It was a consideration.
I just, listen, I look at this.
So you're allowed to be in the ballpark if you're suspended
Yes.
in MLB.
You can't be in the dugout.
Okay.
Or near the dugout.
Interesting.
So you got to get
in the
gotta
NBA,
be in the
you
way
can't
back.
even be in the building.
You got to be in the way back. Oh, where? You can't be in the building?
I think so. Yeah, you can't even be in the building for that night.
That's true. Remember when Draymond had to go to the A's game with Bob Myers?
That's right. That's right. I do remember that. He's sitting in a suite at the A's game. The Warriors are trying to win a championship without him.
Hey, can somebody give Bob some credit?
Well, not anymore.
Across the parking lot.
He's not there. So
I don't remember what the A's did that night, but LeBron and Kyrie each had 40.
probably won. That was back in the golden age of the A's when they were, not this year. So, look, I totally get it. I really do. It doesn't take any dummy could look at Gabe Kapler and go, well, that's gonna bother people. I totally get it. It just doesn't hit me that way. And where my brain goes is twofold with Gabe Kapler. One, it's baseball. And I believe it's not perfect. Do I believe there's more good than bad? I do. I think one thing that's in Gabe Kapler's favor that a lot of Giants fans end up sounding hypocritical about is if y'all hate Farhan, then you better high-five Gabe. Because if your point is that, well, Farhan's cheap and he's not gotten any good players on the roster, well, then Gabe's a damn genius.
Which I have heard a little. I have heard some. I don't get the impression anybody likes Gabe, thinks Gabe's a great manager. But I do think there's been a lot more heat on
at Farhan for sure.
And I actually.
It's like if you hate Farhan, then
it's such a weird dynamic.
You've got to explain the whole more wins than losses thing. I'm not here to tell you that's good enough, but if your point, which I've heard a billion times, there's not one good player on the roster, well then how do they have more wins than losses?
He's been really...
You have to... I don't know where you need to spend credit or how much of it. You got to give something somewhere. Where's it go?
For me, I think there's a lack of full understanding toward the floor of the players that Farhan brings in.
100%.
And the depth. To me, that's what it is. Farhan,
for sure.
And the A's did this for a long time. And I know, Giants fans don't like that, but the A's did this for a long time. Bill, it was till 2 years ago or last year. They never lost 100 games.
It's a little different. There's some tweaks to it. I hear what you're saying.
But it's just Farhan's all the Giants are probably never going to be awful ever under Farhan's ID.
Are they ever going to be great?
That's the question.
That's our question.
Farhan has got it dialed on the 15 to 26 spots on a roster, or the 5 to 26 spots on a roster, even for the most part. It's just, can they get those top players? And this is kind of a separate conversation, but I think Farhan is much more comfortable in that dealing in that middling fringe range.
Well, it's where he's had more success.
And so I think there's a part of him that, management wants to dip their toe in, ownership wants to dip their toe in, and yes, we do want to do that because what organization does? And I think, again, my analysis of Farhan, I think he knows he has to dip his toe in those waters because ownership wants it. But I think there's times where he's the Correa thing pops up and he's like, oh, okay, good. I have a reason. That will make me look good for not doing this because I really don't want to do it, because the second you do one of those deals and it doesn't work, you're done. Like the second you do a big money deal that doesn't work, real one, you're done. And if you don't win,
exactly. I was going to say that's kind of like what we said about Kyle Shanahan and Trey Lance. You're dead if this doesn't work, unless somebody else comes along that does.
Unless you win.
Yes.
No, that's it. Yeah. So I think there's an extension by kind of being in the middle, and it just you can survive in the middle for longer.
For sure.
And I think six teams in each league make the playoffs. Like Farhan looked at that like I can make the playoffs every year. Like not easily, but I think for a guy like him, the way that he thinks and as well as he's got it dialed, like he's like I can make the playoffs every year with 10 to 26 on my like.
You are right that we have undersold as we're sitting here talking about how the Giants are in playoff position. A few years ago, the way people would have described it is, well, it's August 18th, and they are now 10.5 games behind the Dodgers. And it's like, it's okay. So that's to your point. It's to your point. Yeah, the bar has moved. The bar has moved for sure.
And look, I don't think Gabe Kapler, to bring it back to him, I don't think Gabe Kapler is a great manager. I don't. I do think he's been well protected by Farhan Zaidi's system. I think he's done everything that Farhan Zaidi's asked him to do in terms of managing it. They've had enough success to where it's not like, damn it, he should be fired or anything like that.
You think he's a poor manager?
I think he's...
That's a long pause.
I think he's... I don't... But they're so dependent...
Great pause.
They're so dependent on the overall plan that I just don't...
You don't know how much he's even doing.
But I don't think he's doing a lot.
Yeah.
But I also think he really, like, when we get into this what's real and what's fake conversation about Gabe in terms of the interactions and the other stuff, I do think he would like to have those type of back and forths that he had the other day with the reporter that we played. I think he'd like to do that more often. I think he did that more often in Philly, and it was part of the reason why he got crushed and the whole thing swallowed him up to the point where he was gone after 2 years.
Yeah, but if you do it a lot, then you're a jerk.
But I think he kind of wants.
You're a jerk.
Like my impression of him is that's the real him.
Let's go to John in Walnut Creek. Hey, John, you're on with Willard and JD. What's up, John? What are you doing?
Hey, fellas, how you doing?
What's up?
Hi, living good in Walnut Creek.
Good.
Good place to live.
Hey, had a question for you guys. Totally agree. Farhan and Gabe are a product of each other. But I got a question for you guys. If you think a little bit deeper, when Bochy left, we all thought he was done with baseball. He comes back, and I thought about it a little bit more. Do you guys think that he perhaps left because he had a different philosophy with Farhan? And it's just something that I started to think about more, because I think we would have welcomed him back home with open arms. He lives in California. He could have probably got a job closer here too. But I thought he was done. But when he went back to when he took the job with the Rangers, just kind of thought about that philosophy with Farhan, and was there a difference there, and maybe that's why he walked away.
Well, John, I can speak on this. I think pretty well. JD, I bet can too. John, thanks. I would say this. Is there a difference there? Sort of. I never thought Bruce Bochy was done. I never, ever, not for a second, did I think that Bruce Bochy was retiring, partially because you and I are probably both in the room and have had direct conversations, and you can tell when someone's like, I'm done. Never say never. Well, I get it. I never felt like he was done, but I don't take that to mean like the question you're asking sort of makes it sound like, was there a rift? Was there a difference of opinion between Farhan and Bruce Bochy? I wouldn't phrase it that way. They were never going to be the two dudes that work together. When you bring in someone like Farhan, it's sort of like automatic turnkey. You're bringing him in to get a new guy, bring in a new formula. It's a full reboot. And so I just think it was understood that when Farhan came in, and that's why you heard Bochy go, it's time. It's time because Farhan's here, and they're going to do a whole new thing. And so the Giants kindly made it like, okay, this is a retirement and we love you and let's do 1 year where Farhan and Bruce are together. It was never going to be that. And that's not because they hated each other or anything like that. It just was never going to be that.
I think Bruce Bochy's a class act, and he knew that Farhan was going to want his guy, and he took himself out of the equation. He did it in a way where everybody could save face. And
Slash was asked.
Yeah, same difference.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, if you want to call it forced out, a little piece of that.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yes.